I think about creativity as the force that's within all of us that allows us to choose, select, and determine at any moment what direction we're going to go and utilize that force that's within us in order to deliver on a different outcome. And I don't think that's a common definition of creativity, but I realize that that's what's happening. I realize that we are either influenced or inspired. We are having an experience. We are noticing how we feel about things and responding to them. And that feeling and that response is what tells us that we should do something. It's what tells us which direction to go with what we want to see, what we want to have happen, we want to do. And so when we start choosing identities and we start saying, this is who I am, it's usually in response to something outside of yourself. No one inside of their person has ever had to label who they are in order to be understood. It may be that you have to say who you are to reinforce something that's happening that you don't want to take place, or in order to prove something to someone who is trying to discredit. But never once in your person, in your soul, do you need a definition about who you are. And I used to literally walk around, people would say, who are you? And I would say, I am soul expressed because that's the only definition anybody needs. If that works for me, it has to work for you. Because me being soul expressed simply tells you that I'm telling you who I am through everything that I'm expressing. I'm telling you who I am through what I'm doing, and I'm also telling you who I am through the fact that I know who I am. So there's no other definition that really matters. There's no other word or title that I need to put a harness on my creativity, right? I think about this for multi-hyphenates, and maybe you are one. And I think about it when we are trying to explain to people what our role is, what our title is, what we do, which is wild, right? Because trying to explain what your title is or what you do is not a thing. It's not a thing in the sense that if I tell you, it's still not going to be what it is that I am. It's still not going to tell you all that it is that I am about. So why am I trying my hardest to let you know who I am if in fact who I am is not defined by words. It's not defined by these terms. It's not bound by this moment. So creativity is being wild. The more creative someone is, the more wild they typically are, meaning that they don't have to have all of the um, constructs that other people have. They can color outside of the lines. They can color with bright, vivid colors. They can choose their own palettes. They can, put together things from their mind in a moment's notice. They can be spontaneous. They can be quick. They can ride through a process. They can do all of these things that we think of when we think about artists and creativity, but particularly when we think about creativity as a life force, is what I'm talking about. When creativity is your life force, you are 100% in the flow and in mode with what is coming up as it's happening. It doesn't mean you never reflect on things and think about things. It does mean that the things you reflect on and think about sometimes inspire a different kind of expression. It means that sometimes you may zig when other people zag, right? You may zag when other people zig. It means you may go a different direction. And I love creativity. Creativity is one of my favorite qualities in another person. It truly makes me happy to see people being creative, to see people following processes that allow them to find their own voice, and also to see people not accepting a title outside of themselves that is convenient for others, but totally binds them. And I think that's the most important part. Creativity being wild means being unbound. That means even in your own process, you constantly have to figure out how to be unbound. If I'm a bassist, for instance, which I am, if I'm a bassist and everyone is saying this is how you play the bass, all I'm trying to hear is what have they not told me about how to play the bass and why has no one gone there? Or better yet, if this is how I play the bass, then what else is there once we've all done this? Once we have all done this, what else is there? Because there has to be more than that. If we're all following the same path, taking the same rules, that's not very creative. It's actually very much a follower instinct to do things the same way because that's the way you have to do it. Well, who got to be creative enough that they said that there is a way? And then why do we have to follow their way? Because their way was the only way that was creative. It just doesn't make sense. So creativity, of course, happens in the bodies and the minds of people that are not artists. It happens in the bodies and minds of people who are not, leaders or are not in charge. Creativity is in everyone's body. You know what I mean? You might not embody it, but it's in your body somewhere. And your creativity is a spark of connection, not just to you and the divine, not just to you and whatever visual or idea comes up, but also you to other people. It's the spark. And I could talk about this endlessly, so I won't. But I just wanted to say, like, that's what I'm thinking about as this year closes, is what is creativity and how do you find creativity in your life? Like, what are your creative laws? Have you ever thought about this? Like, what are your creative laws? Like, what are the things that make you create? If you say to yourself, you know what, when I see X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, that combination makes me want to create. Or when I don't see X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, that makes me want to create. Or maybe it's just one specific thing that you say, yep, that makes me want to create. Whatever the case may be, do you know your creative laws? Do you know the things? And, again, law is probably too strong of a word for what I'm sensing, but just in the sense that it's real for you. It's predictable that this is what you are interested in and curious about and what makes you want to express yourself. But even in that, we can be creative, right? We can decide at one point that it's one thing and at another point that it's something else. And so it doesn't really matter to us as, an audience or people that are watching that you decide to be creative in other ways. I think the big question is, what do you want us to do with it? I think there is some of that happens when people are listening to other people be creative. It's like, what do you want me to do with this? You know what I mean? Like, and that's not necessarily for the creative person to answer. But a lot of times that's the question that remains. It's like, what am I supposed to do with that? And sometimes nothing. You just keep going and you find other things you're interested in, other things you want to do. And then at other times, there is a question, there is a connection, and you sit with it and you let it marinate. And then at a certain point in time, you might find out, oh, that is what I can do with that creativity. That moment that I saw is sparking something in me. And I didn't know it at the time, but later I found out, like, wow, that's really amazing. So that is my challenge to you right now. My challenge to you is find out what it takes for you to be creative. Find out for yourself what creativity brings into your life. And also ask yourself, who are the most creative people you know so that you can start to understand the people that live this as a lifestyle and embody it are inspiring you to be more of it the more that you are around them, the more that you look into what they do. Maybe drop some of these answers in the comments. I think us all contemplating creativity can only produce good. I don't think contemplating creativity has ever produced a negative response, a negative effect. I think creativity is purely positive. Now, what some people do with it or how they go about it or who's next they think they have to lean on in order to get to the top might be different, but that's not creativity itself. Creativity itself is what people say is a vibe for sure. But it's your own. It's your own. So as long as it's your own, it's considered creativity. As long as it's your own, it is being creative. In the birth chart, I always look to the third house and the fifth house, of course. But I also like to look at the eighth house. And then sometimes the 12th house. I think the eighth house and the 12th house give me a little more depth of answer. But I think that the third house and the fifth house definitely um, will start to talk about that, especially if there are planetary placements there. The constellations of creativity to me are all, I mean, again, if they're in everybody, they're also in every constellation. Like every constellation has their way of being creative. The way that the Capricorn constellation is creative is not the same as the way as the Pisces constellation is creative, right? And even the way that an Aries would be creative would be vastly different than the way maybe a Cancer would be creative. But it doesn't mean that you're not creative. So there's not a particular constellation that I look to say that's creativity. Um, but I do definitely look at Mercury, and I absolutely, I mean, the rising sometimes. I don't like to get caught up in like the more obvious things. I like to look at some of the more undertone aspects of the birth chart. So, yes, the rising is going to do it. People always say wherever Leo is, or, whatever's going on in your fifth house, or, you know what I mean? Like, um, people sometimes say that, but I don't think about it in those terms. I think that being creative can be born anywhere of anyone at any time in any way. It's that powerful. It's that multifaceted. It's that universal that looking at a spot for creativity is interesting. It may tell you a lot about just how creative someone is, but we all have it. Are we all using it? Do we all honor it? Do we all believe we have it? And these are things to think about. What are you going to be creating in the calendar year ahead? What part of your creativity are you going to give some breathing room and space? I know for me, one of the things that I don't talk about a lot, but it's one of the things that I feel deep in my person is that I'm a musician. And even though my connection to music has been to, I have played instruments before. I used to play trombone. I definitely used to play piano when I was much smaller, but that was never like my instrument. And trombone was challenging. Um, but I've wanted to play different instruments at different times. And I definitely dance like an instrument, right? I am an instrument on the dance floor for sure. I love percussion. But the truth is, like, my idea of music is so collaborative. It's hard for me to say, I want to play this one instrument. And I've been doing this for the last 9 years. It's been the bass for me, but it's been such like a friction because playing bass for me is very singular in the sense, not just how you play the notes, but very singular in the sense that I just love the bottom, right? I just love the depth and the richness and the deep end of things and the qualities that just hold everything together. That's just so sexy to me, right? So playing bass is one of those things for me. But I realized that I may love the sound of bass more than I love to play the bass. But I also think that there's just a level that I haven't been inspired to. And when I hit that level, it's going to spark. And I'm not in a rush to get there. That's the thing that makes people upset. I'm not in a rush to get there. I'm not acting like I have all the time in the world. I'm just not in a rush. I am with the process. And the process is working me, whether people know I'm working or not. It's working me, right? So I know when I get to that place, it's going to be unstoppable. It's going to be like just whatever that is, but I have albums in me, I have lyrics in me, I have music in me. And that's one area that I have not given a lot of creative ability to um, publicly. I've definitely done it privately, but not publicly. And any DJ that knows me, any musician that knows me, they know I'm a musician. They know I'm a musician if I don't say I'm a musician. And people used to stop me on the street and be like, so do you sing? Do you play instruments? Like literally would open a conversation with me this way. I've never said a word. I'm not in a musical environment. I don't walk around with an instrument. So why people would just start talking to me and be like, so you're a musician, right? Oh, I thought you were a musician. And I'm like, wow. And so if I say no, I'm into I'm an educator, I'm into healing and yoga and creativity. And they're like, oh, okay. It's almost like they don't know what to do with all of that, but I do, right? So that's my creativity. So it's just waiting for the musical element to fully come in. And I have a very, very sneaking suspicion that 2026 is a year that I will be more public with that. I'm not making any promises, but there's a few things that are lining up that are letting me know I'll be more public. with my musical side in 2026. So, what will you be more public with? Leave it in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that even in the short time that we've had a chance to talk, if you're new here or if you have been here for a while, I hope that your 2025 has taught you a lot. I want you to think about this as we move forward. Don't look at a year that was challenging as a year that produced no fruit. Challenges definitely shape us, change us, make us think about things that we would not have thought about. They help us to heal. They help us to look deeper at ourselves, take ourselves more seriously, and they definitely give us boundaries. Challenges are good for us. However, they never feel good when we're being challenged. They rarely feel good when we're being challenged, unless that's your type of thing. That's what you're into. But challenges are great. And I think the more we learn how to be resilient and flexible through challenges and through change, the easier it is for us to evolve and move from one time to the next and to be creative in our own processes so that we can move forward in our own understanding of the power that we move with and how we are a part of the fabric that keeps us connected and keeps us all together. I hope you decide to be creative. I hope this in some way has reminded you how creative you actually are. And I look forward to seeing you in the new year. Thank you so much. My name is Stacy Patrice, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Peace.